Hi guys. All right, we just had some surprises from YouTube. I'm Laura Volpentesta. I'm the founder of Fashion Illustration Tribe, and all of a sudden when we went live, I realized all the mess of my studio is becoming visible in the screen. I'm a 20 years of fashion professor at Parsons in New York City, and I'm the founder of Fashion Illustration Tribe, which is an online learning space for fashion design and illustration. Just so you know who I am. I'm also the author of The Language of Fashion Design, which is available on Amazon. It's 26 principles every fashion designer should know. And it explores global fashion and the things that that excite me about clothes. It kind of shows you how ways to look at garments and design and stuff. It also has 26 biographies in it. Okay, we're getting off topic. So today I want to talk about proportions. I remember as a fashion student getting to Parsons, taking my first model drawing class. The first year when I was a fashion student at Parsons, it was all fine art. That's all it was. There was no fashion at all. So we went heavily into drawing, painting, color and design, all the basic foundation stuff, sculpture, three-dimensional design. And I think that's really, really wonderful because we got so fluent in art before we had to go into our majors. But what happened was I hadn't been drawing at all yet, which is an interesting part of my journey that I'd like you to know about too, because I love working with beginners, because I remember how when I started to learn to draw and to study color and to work with color and drawing, how my eyes changed, my mind changed, and my abilities changed. And it was a completely exhilarating time in my life, which is why I continue to do this for others. So we got our art skills, and then I didn't have any at all. So when I was accepted, I didn't get to read your message. When I was accepted to Parsons, they said, oh, you're accepted, but not, you're gonna have to take a drawing class in the summer as a prerequisite for fall. So I took this figure drawing class. It was like 5 weeks long. Thank you. And it was wonderful because it was like 6 hours a day for 5 weeks. I'm telling you, every minute you put into drawing, you get back. It's never time wasted, even if you're not happy with what you've done. It is never time wasted, I promise. So here's the thing. I was living in a room with 3 other girls for that summer, and they were all fashion summer students. So I'm watching them, and they're learning this thing called fashion proportion. And it was weird. So their teacher would have them take sheets of paper and fold it in half, and then fold it in half like 5 more times so that it would be 10 sections long. So let's say 10 inches, so it was divided into 10 pieces, and the figures that they drew would be mostly legs with a little bit of upper body. And this was like, it was like this rite of passage. It was like this rule or law of fashion, and everyone was supposed to draw this way. Super long legs, super skinny figures. And because I wanted to be a designer, I already was in that state of like, oh my gosh, whatever they tell me is what I have to do. Whatever they tell me, I'll do. I just have my dream. And I was so out of touch that it didn't even occur to me how crazy that was. And it still is. And teachers are still doing it, and students are still doing it. And there are thousands, hundreds and thousands and millions of people still drawing that way. When they talk about fashion, they have to draw a body that never exists. And I just want to talk to you today about the fact that fashion illustration is one thing, and actually it's my passion, but fashion design is design as well. So you're designing for life. You're designing for something that really is going to happen, something that really going to exist for people to wear. So even the tallest, skinniest models, let's say, still don't meet those proportions that we learned in school. There's actually a blog article on my blog, Fashion Illustration Tribe, and I'm going to link it in the comments below. And it talks about an ad campaign that came out in Brazil called You Are Not a Sketch. And in this campaign, they took typical fashion sketches, several, and then they had photoshopped some women to look exactly like the bodies in the sketches. And it's incredible how what we find acceptable in a sketch is kind of horrifying when we're looking at a human. Okay, so I don't care what your teacher tells you. It's funny because I have so many students at Parsons who have me along with other teachers, but what do you really believe? Like, when do you step into your truth and decide what you want, what you believe about this? About, for example, I always love to say, if you're a car designer or a furniture designer, or a hat designer, don't you draw to scale? What does this say? Yes, I'm a fashion teacher. I'm an assistant professor of fashion design at Parsons, the new school for design in New York City. But I also have my own program called Freedom Fashion at my website, fashionillustrationtribe.com. And I've taught all the model drawing, portfolio, illustration, design sketching, concept development. But I've also had years teaching sewing, draping, and pattern making. So I've created this Freedom Fashion program where you have access to, I've created my own courses based on all the courses I've taught over my years, because I believe that you should be able to learn in a way that doesn't have you sketching unreal bodies. That doesn't mean you have to like commute and move to a major city and put yourself into debt. It's for really independent people who want to jump in and start learning right away, deeply, and also in a really adventurous, explorative way from home and at their own pace. So, what I wanted to say was like a hat designer or a sofa designer, they don't stretch out their sketch of the sofa to make it look better. What makes it look great is a great design. And I think a lot of times this thing with the stretched fashion sketching maybe is when people are trying to compensate for not knowing, maybe they're insecure about their drawing, so they think it will be more exciting. And certainly if it's not for design, it's fun to play with the expressions of the body. There's all different ways we can distort the body for fun. But as a feminist, I'm really passionate about seeing sketches that I can relate to, sketches that I can step into, clothes that I can step into. And above all, not all fashion teachers or designers agree with me, because thank God we all have our own perspectives. But I think that when you're designing for yourself, for your body, for your lifestyle, for your dreams and hopes and loves and experiences, that's the best design you can have. Because how many designers, like, you can still fill it with fantasy, but how many people design for fantasy, and then what about yourself, right? I just know that I know my clothes and how they make me feel, how they fit, how the fabrics feel, where I wear them, where I use them, and why. And I love designing from that place. I encourage people, my students, to design from that place, but I also love diverse perspectives. So fashion's so multifaceted. So just about the proportional thing, here's the thing. Proportion is always something we can use in drawing. Proportion technically means how the size of one thing relates to the size of something else. So like these earrings could be as big as my head. They could be this big. Or they could be as big as my eyes. They could be small, right? Proportion is the relationship, the ratio of size between one thing and another. So what they do in a lot of fashion classes, they say 10 heads or 12 heads or even 9 heads. There's a book everyone loves called 9 Heads. I can't even look at it because every single drawing in that book is severely distorted, and I can't even look at it. It just bothers me. I would never recommend that to my students because I feel like I have a responsibility. But what happens? So they're talking about head lengths. So these fashion proportions that you hear about are always talking about the length of something. So it's super useful to use this tool. So I have a tool that I use and love and teach in my courses. It's 8.5 to 9. But when you see the way I do it, sometimes it's even 8. And if you look at models in magazines and you measure how long the head is, and then take that measurement and keep going down the page to see how long is their body compared to their head, I'm telling you, you see like 6.5, 7. And then you have teachers that are all teaching 10 heads, 12 heads. I think this is really deep. I teach at a fashion school for 20 years, and my students are like 99% female. And getting taught that's deep. I know I take things too seriously, but guess what? When you see a book of sketches that's done to scale, when you see a portfolio done on women that you're like, oh my gosh, these clothes look amazing, and these women are not distorted, that's when you say, bam, this is good design. This is intelligent design. And I've noticed with a lot of my female students that there's a disconnect, a really strong disconnect between how they sketch when it's distorted and how they sketch when it's getting more real, because they step into their power. They step into their clothes when they start drawing more accurate proportion. And here's the thing. I could have the same skeleton and be any range of weights. So when you talk about length proportions, yes, we all have different length proportions. Whatever your length proportions are, you still have different amounts of weight built on, right? Some people have a bigger bust, smaller bust, higher bust, lower bust, depending which bra you wear, or if you wear a bra, you have wider hips, wider shoulders, narrower shoulders and hips. These are all relative proportions that create different shapes, and there are infinite possibilities. Not only that, but ready to wear kind of fits no one because everyone's bodies are so varied. So I love design that fits in a flexible way. I love that. Or I love design that's like totally made to fit me. Yeah. I also love print and pattern. So in Freedom Fashion Program, we talk a lot about fashion, color. I've noticed in all my years teaching how all students have their own relationships to color. So in sketching, when you're taking sketching classes and illustration classes, like I offer in Freedom Fashion, where you're developing your own collections of clothes and illustrating them and painting them over and over, so you have like various collections, you will start to see, you'll see your own style emerge. It's really exciting, and usually you won't see it right away because you're so used to being you. And I love being that witness, especially with the shy ones, because ideally you have a lot of witnesses by your peers. But if you're super shy, your only witness may be me or yourself. But having a witness from the outside will reflect back to you who you are, what your style is, what makes you special, because you're so used to being you that you may not recognize it. And the other awesome thing is in a group process like Freedom Fashion Coaching, when you see each other's work, you will also be able to see what is possible. You'll be able to see what makes you unique, who you are and who other people are, and see that there's no competition because we all have unique strengths. And actually, we can even have complementary strengths that lead to great partnerships too, which is really cool. And then the other great thing that happens in classes is when you get feedback from peers, it helps you see things in your work that you didn't know you could see, as well as feedback from your coach, which would be me if you're in my coaching program. But fashion illustration proportions is something I want you to think about. Proportions isn't a rule that someone tells you. It's just like I have so many people come to me, they know I'm a fashion teacher and designer, and say, teach me how to do colors. No, 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 no. I can't teach you how to do colors. Your sense of proportion, your sense of harmony, I can teach you about color and how color works, but that will never teach you about taste in color. Your taste is yours. It's emotional and it's actually reliable. You will see over time that you know how to choose. You know what feels right to you, and only you can know. I can't say, oh, pick this kind of color, pick this kind of proportion. You need to know who your client is, what your values are, and create your proportions accordingly. Now, all of that said, I promise you that I use proportions when I teach model drawing. If you go to my website and get your free bundle at fashionillustrationtribe.com, if you subscribe, you're going to get a booklet that has croquis templates in the back of different proportions, and you'll see I use this length of heads that's like 8 to 9 heads, depending whether she's in heels or flats. But the thing is, having a proportional rule gives me control over what I'm drawing, and it gives me consistency. But, But, how you interpret that, how you fill that page, what varieties you work with in there, that becomes your choice. And here's the final message, is that when we work with an institution, sometimes we give all our power away. Don't do that. Trust your inner knowing. That's why I created Freedom Fashion, so I could create a space where my students can bring their inner knowing, rather than this like blind faith of this fashion machine that's going to tell them, lie about your body. Time's a wasting. We need to fill and flood the interwebs with images of us in all our glory, in telling our stories about our beauty, about our culture, about our craft, about our beliefs, about our feelings. That's what Freedom Fashion is about. And Fashion Proportion is about the size and shape of people, beautiful people. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear your comments below, and or your experiences in fashion schools with that kind of, and I'm going to finish with a final story about a student I had who was working on her portfolio. And because it was portfolio, she thought she had to do all these long, skinny figures, and she was having a terrible time. This was in the school. And they were just getting worse and worse. And I said to her, hon, let's bring them down in size. And the very next week, she had this massive breakthrough. Her sketches were amazing. And I truly believe that's because she tapped into truth. Truth is easy to tell. It's like drawing something that you don't really believe in is never going to really comfort. When you're comfortable, when you're happy, when you're aligned, your work comes out great. When there's a disconnect, when there's a lie or there's a conflict, it's not going to come out as well. I'm going to let you go with that. Signing off for now. I'm Laura Volpintesta. Don't forget to get your free bundle on fashionillustrationtribe.com. When you subscribe, you'll get creative tools for fashion. Thanks for joining me, and let me know what you think below. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you'd like to get updates with the little bell when we have new videos, and share this out if you know someone who wants to hear it. Also, Freedom Fashion Program is starting with a fall coaching, only 15 slots. We start September 3rd. Early birds get $500 off before August 7th, and they get a pre-party package where you get 2 smaller courses that you can play around with before the real program starts. It's a model drawing class that's all about freedom of expression, and it's an iPad digital classic and help teach you how to create art on your iPad if you want to play around with that. And that's all the news. And that information will also be accessible when you subscribe for your bundle at fashionillustrationtribe.com. I'm Laura Volpentesta, signing off. Bye-bye.